use it on anyone who actually has the skill. So no one who actually can pick locks would dare put on Opposer's Cap. So our monk could use it, for example, but that's it. And it doesn't have any armor class bonus. It's not cursed, is nice, but it doesn't benefit anything else. And since we have her as a designated skill monkey, and her skill is already 11, she's already better than anybody who could wear it, and that's without starting with a bonus in it. So the only reason you would actually need that is if you didn't have somebody
Behold.
at all. And see, look, we found a book. Books always go to the bishop.
You bellowed. First class.
Now that deserves a mention, because we just learned a new school to boot. So let's talk about how schools work. You have a realm down here. Earth, divine, mental. Each one of these has its own spell pool in terms of how much of it you can cast. So I can't burn all of this guy's mana on wound healing. He can only cure this many wounds. I can't burn all his mana on charms. He can only cast this many charms. It's a little like playing Dwarf Fortress or XCOM in the sense that the games are very fair in terms of how they work. It's just that the random number generator is under no obligation to play nice. There's, for example, wide variance in terms of levels that you can see inside areas. And so things can suddenly become much more hostile than they were before. Areas that you might enter at one level might be completely tolerable or at least passable, and encountered later could be much more fearsome. So if we outlevel stuff early on, for example, we can make it more difficult to pass through some areas we may need to slip through undetected later. We may have to have fights where we kill 6 mobs out of the 25 and then run for our lives. We may have to do a bit of grinding, if you will, to get through things in order to get past the areas that we have raised by increasing our level. Because we've got a specialist who will level up more quickly and an elite who will trail behind, our average level should tend to hang around these guys' level. And so in general, we'll be okay. We won't be leveling up too quickly or too slowly. But I've seen a lot of recommendations, and we're going to avoid or just ignore some of them and see how the game plays, as new players who aren't exposing ourselves to every piece of information we could possibly research.
Behold.
Already that ranger is paying off. But the truth is that I've played through this area with folks who could do searching manually, and the only difference really is that enemies will tend to move first. That means you sometimes take a round of attacks you wouldn't otherwise take while you're searching. You can get around that by turning searching off when you're going around corners, or by moving up towards a corner and entering combat mode and then walking around the corner to see if there's anything there and then walking back. But how you choose to use searching mode is going to be determined whether or not you have a ranger. If you want to find hidden items and you don't have a ranger, it's got to be on when you're looking for stuff. And there's a fair amount of hidden stuff we're going to go through this. So there's a pair of boots and a scroll. And when we walk in, hey look, poof, ring.
Observe.
So, if you don't have search on, you don't even get the ring. It doesn't show up. You never see it.
Of course.
Now our tank up here is going to put some boots on. And now at this point everybody's got sandals, so I'm throwing them in the party items. Everybody's got at least that good. And you'll notice they've got an average armor class. That's their armor class for purposes of combat. Although these boots are really nice, none of the rest of this is particularly good. And there's empty slots in one case, so it averages out lower. Monk gets a base AC because of his stealth skill. Theoretically, I suppose if you really wanted to build a really tanky monk, you could, I don't think he gets shield, but you could level him up as a monk and then give him shield when you change him over to a fighter later. Yeah, is the, I guess I should ask, I can turn the gamma up a little bit. This is plenty visible for me, but can you guys see it okay? So, here's a ring. It's not identified. We don't know what it is. I do, because I've played through this section. I'm going to put it on, because my monk could use a little more armor class. He's not going to level it up very quickly anyway. There we go. These guys with larger health point pools can afford to absorb a hit or two. Not so the monk. Still can't identify that yet. Okay, and this scroll, which is a note. And no, I don't know. See, there you go. So the Templars have some weapons, the threat to this thing. There you go. Apparently they starved him to death when they left. Now you can just see over the top. See him? Yeah, I see him. This is a room we can actually save for later if we need to grind up skill, so I'm going to bypass it. The only thing in there is a potion. We'll leave it behind for now. When we come back later, most of these mobs will be high level, but those roaches will still be...
Spotted a wild one!
Young.
Let's do it!
Okay, so here's some low-level roaches.
Right then.
Okay.
Yeah, see, walking there is not ideal. I don't have a light spell, actually, yet. Oh, yes, I do. I picked it up. Would actually be a good idea, wouldn't it? We're not going to cast it enough that we have to worry about it. So, now these guys have kind of flanked around beside us here, and our bard is exposed on the left flank. You'll notice our bard has more hit points than our monk does. So although he's got armor,
now that was satisfying.
Hit from one of these guys, while the bishop is basically dead in 2 hits if he gets hit. By forcing him out of continuous. So our ranger and our bard can both hit hard.
Now that was fun!
So you could take a ranger and a gadgeteer, for example, and have one guy using a gun and one guy using a bow on either sides of your party. Okay, leave that door alone for just a minute. That, for the record, that door down there is an example of the game playing perfectly fair and not telling you the rules in advance. Once you walk in, there's basically a mini-boss right on top of you, and if you don't know he's coming, if you don't realize he's a mini-boss, by the time you realize you're in trouble because he's higher level than you, you've got, you know, guys who are getting pounded in their face. Well, let me see if I can turn down the master here just a bit. No, I can't affect it that way. We can do this.
Greetings.
That should be just about silent in the background now. The music, I mean. Alright, so let's check our map. So this is actually a 3D space it's trying to represent. Here's us. There's some areas we haven't explored up here. We need to go see those. There's some area in here we haven't been through. And the only reason we can see this area above us is because we passed under it, basically. So it mapped that area as we passed through it, both from below. So these hallways up above us here and across there, we see them because the map is not full 3D. Glorious, glorious
Stand
2.5D.
back and watch me fight. You might learn something.
It's just the map, though.
Right then.
We just want to have the bishop building up the spell skills when possible. So I'm going to be burning through the spells over and over. Anytime there's some of these guys not infected here. He's out of range, or he's set on the wrong weapon.
Oh, that hurts.
For the record, you cannot change equipment in combat. If we hadn't splattered that guy, it wouldn't have allowed me to open it. You can only change equipment in combat if you actually spend a turn of your character's movement doing so. We came through here and we got the light spells. Where we're looking for is further down. Looky there.
Okay.
Let's just charge him. I don't think there's any tough ones there. Oh, no, let's not charge him. Let's do this instead. Notice we have like no divine spell power, so
Right then.
our caster here is not a particularly adept healer yet. He's apt to fizzle that cast and then have to do it again.
Bhagavad-gita.
Doesn't take but one to get her full, though. So, these guys will start to advance down the hallway. There's only 4 of them. There's 6 of us. They won't really surround us very well. None of them are... I mean, this guy has 2 hit points for crying out loud. 5. 7.
With pleasure.
We should be able to get up to them in a walk because they'll advance a little bit on us and they won't quite get to us, but we'll walk the short distance and attack. Now, because we're walking here, all of our guys delay their attacks. And we'll move right on up there and see our ranger lost his attack while he moved, and so I think it'll matter this time. They should auto-swap if these guys move into range, but I don't think they'll survive.
Our will
Sling bullets
has prevailed.
And there's what I meant about mythology improving. It's going to go up on its own for most of these guys.
Standing by.
He's already the best, and senses is one of the things he's going to specialize in, so he'll tend to go up higher for him.
Observe a creature.
Okay.
Right then. This lot is no match for me.
And the slime passed out. Some of your weapons have, and I think it's this guy that's got it, have a special attack. 4% of the time, this weapon will cause a knockout. Effectively, they'll pass out. It's not very common. You won't see it regularly, but it'll occasionally happen. Sometimes even to strong foes, and it'll give you a grin when it does. There is a slider for voices, but there's not much voice, I don't think. Unless it's counting the combat sounds.
Taken care of.
The enemy will die slowly.
Kind of wedge our way in here a little bit so we can reach that guy when this first guy dies without exposing our flank too much. You cannot really push the enemies. I'm kind of pushing myself into the geometry, but you may not want to do it too much when you're close to the edge of the world. And so that roach lost half its attack, and then it lost the other half, and now everybody has to refocus. So I wanted to be close to the second guy. Told you, man, this is old school. Slimes can be knocked out. Don't ask me where they get hit. Yeah. The nucleus? Yeah, that's it. That's my answer. I'm sticking with that.
What? No applause?
One arrow each. But this is not the worst of what we're going to face. These guys are just numerous. Later on, we'll get to this.
Our will has prevailed.
And our hybrids are now getting their third level.
I think I am getting better. Good.
Great. The best are getting better.
Experience is the best.
So now he's down to -3 bonus points. This entire level's been spent too, so I don't get to spend any points yet, but you'll notice he's finally got to 55 here, and he's almost gotten what he needs here.
My aptitude increased. Behold!
See, now there's an item I don't think I've ever seen before. And I've played through this area a few times, and I still don't think I've seen that before in that spot. Our guys up front, I'm going to give them the armor first, because they're going to be on the pointy end of the stick quicker. So we want to kind of get their AC up as much as we can.
Spotted a wild one.
Enemies? Good. They will die quickly. Okay.
See, now that slime can spit and put guys to sleep. So already we've found something we haven't seen before, and it'll be that guy right there. The one we have identified. Because we know these guys are green slimes. We don't know what kind of slime that is yet. Because they've got very few hits.
Okay.
And then finally he goes up. And we could pick a spell here, but I don't really wanna, because I'm trying to get him up a little bit first. I want to use these for the high level spells that I don't have any books for. So we'll save our spells. And we'll put points in alchemy, phonics, earth. We need a few in mental as well, because we have to, we're going to need that when I have to grind it up.
Observe.
Now, if you had a walkthrough handy, or annotated maps, these hidden items might very well be marked for you. Then you wouldn't need the ranger. But we can get by with it, because it's theme, baby. Oh, you didn't like that? Oh, I couldn't help it, man. I looked at that
Here.
picture and thought, that's Gabe. I think it's the ears that sell it. Yeah, we haven't been down here yet. Okay, so now it's time to talk about what grind means in this game. So now I've
Behold.
kind of explored all these hidden items that we've been picking up. You know, there's a little bit of area we haven't
Behold.
covered yet. Seeing already artifact skill
I
is going
spot
up.
new victim.
Oh, and so we found something. It's over there.
Ah! This'll be like target practice.
And they're not going to last very
Taken
long.
care of.
Now you cannot change what I've set them up to do after you start running. You have to set them up the entire round basically before you start doing it. The only thing you can change is the targets you've selected. So if you want to cast certain spells, you have to aim them at your own party or aim them at the ground in order to be able to target them somewhere and then recast retarget the aim once you get up to them. You'll have to deal with a couple of annoyances like that as you play. Welcome to Open World. there's a little bit of hallway. It's possible I missed an item through there when I was running with search mode on. Having a high senses character and auto-searching high senses character at that might be more useful. Some of the areas I wouldn't necessarily search apparently had items in them. Alright, so now we've leveled up a
Let
couple
me at
times,
him!
and we found a tougher foe. You can, if you've enabled it, control right-click will give us an idea of what this is. What range he's at, thrown weapons, his hit points and stamina and experience if we know it. Once we've identified him, we'll know more. Let's fire a couple of ranged weapons at him. And so there you go. Already he's firing back at us, so now we know that he'll stand back there forever if we don't advance. And several of our guys are primarily intended to be close quarters combat, so we need to get them into close quarters as much as possible.
We win, naturally. Oh, bloody hell! We're in for trouble.
Understood.
It shall be so.
Right then. Wo stehst, verbogen Vakni?
Our will has prevailed.
Darling, I just keep getting better and better.
Got a lock.
So here's how locks work. You pick the character who
Ready
has the
and
skill.
willing.
They can see what their skill is. You click tumblers. Repeatedly. Now you can build skill up by opening these locks, but you can also build skill by inspecting traps. The catch is there's no limit apparently to the number of times you can inspect a particular trap, so you just keep inspecting a particular trap and keep inspecting the particular trap. Save and load. No, it's not muted. I just don't keep it on all the time. I don't figure you really need to listen to me breathing, do you?
It shall be so.
Now, the reason we left this alone earlier was because I knew what was behind that door. Our big friend here, as you can see, is
This
a little
lot is
tougher
no
than
match for me.
the previous ones. Countering him at level 1 is kind of a brutal surprise.
Right then. Amas Rami Bhagavat Gita.
Nope.
Right then.
The itching earth spell that we keep using basically reduces attack and defense whenever it sticks.
With pleasure.
Poet's Loot will put him to sleep for whoever attacks him first to potentially do double damage. Charm is useless to us. Light we can cast, but
Right then.
isn't combat effective.
Amas Rami Bhagavat Gita.
Yay.
Came up empty.
Observe.
Of course.
And that will give him something to swap to while we're waiting on his levels to finally grant him magic.
Ready and willing.
And here's another opportunity for the game to show you exactly how unfair it is. Right up that ramp is another fight just like that one, where you walk into it and are not prepared. He just wants to rule his people. He can rule his people, he just can't rule my room or I'm gonna rest. Okay, so now we got
Vacant.
a sling for you.
What is your will?
But no stones yet, so we can't equip you yet. Bummer. Don't want to split the bishop's stones. We got some of them.
You bellowed?
Now, the reason I'm giving him a sling or darts or shuriken is because they're all the same skill. Throwing and the sling both use the same skill. So all of these weapons share one skill. That way his skill-ups are focused. We don't have to worry about him trying to raise bow.
More
and then
beasts.
throwing, and the beasts are down there in the water. How many of them are there? 5.
This lot is no match for me.
And as before, neutral enemy becomes hostile as soon as you get near it.
Right then.
With pleasure.
And this will hopefully debuff them and put them to sleep, at which point the frontline fighters will carve them up in short order. That one there is actually on our right flank. These others are on flanks. Two times damage. Yay!
Rosted Strabogen Vakni.
Knocked him out. And now he gets pummeled. And his friend wakes up to find out all his friends are gone. No! Wait, so, look, the Valkyrie has dropped half her health. So this is where a lot of your skill-ups basically come from.
You bellowed?
Repeat casting a spell over and over again. In this case, heal, to try and... Now I just hit Shift M and repeat that spell. There's actually a hotkey for repeat that last thing. And hey look, he gains his first skill. Now the way we're leveling him up, in terms of his skills, I'm actually not going to put many points into these realms. Our points are going to be invested up here in the schools to make sure that we get access to all the levels of spells. We eventually have to reach 90 in all of these to be able to cast everything. Fire magic helps. For example, if a spell is Wizardry and Fire, you get one, I think it's 1/4 of this, or 1/10 of this, added to whatever your Wizardry is. So, for example, that healing spell we've been casting is Divinity 15, I think, for level 1s, or Divinity 1 for level 1 spells, but our skill's only like 8. We'll get our first Divinity spells, our second level Divinity spells, available at 15, I think it is. If we learned one in a book right now, we would be almost sure to fizzle it. I can't even imagine it would even let us cast it successfully. Likewise, with our low throwing and low range combat skill, this guy is a wussy. He can't hit the broadside of a barn with a sling. And I actually shouldn't have come down here yet. I should have done something else first. So there's only one way out of this, actually, and this is where the game actually introduces that it really is 3D, and that is you can take falling damage. So be careful how you drop down and where you do it at, because if you drop too far, too fast, it hurts. So when you go down the ramp here, you want to make sure you don't overdo it, or you'll come flying down the far side and plow. Certain falls in the game can kill you. There are falls that only a Valkyrie can survive, and only if she cheats death. Oh, wait, there's an item.
Came up empty.
There's several items now. Because we never crossed the lagoon, did we? No, we didn't. Let's see it now. You can probably do this fight up here at level 1, but it's a lot more challenging than the standard crabs. So we can skip this.
Observe.
I just got a shiver all through my body. Something's not
warned you.
right.
I spot new victim.
Ha! This'll be like target practice.
So these guys are all level 2 when you first start out, and there's 5 of them, which is a little strong.
With pleasure.
Their armor class is a little better, I believe, so much of the rest of it is a situation where these guys who start out at level 1, you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
I think I am getting better.
Great! The best are getting better!
And he only gets 3 bonus points this level because he's just finally reached out of apprentice and he's now a full monk. So now he's finally at the level where he can level up.
Experience is the best teacher.
Waste of time.
My aptitude increases. Behold, behold.
Kind of piloting by radar here because I know the map a little bit, so I'm just watching to make
Waste
sure there's
of
nothing in front
time.
of us. And now we've explored almost all of the lower area. One spot we haven't been at. That button is a trap.
What's this thing do?
You'll want to do it later,
Give me a
but right
second,
now
I'll
it's a
figure
trap
it out.
because up there, where the return button is, it's broken. So once you push this, you're up there. The only way back is through a fight I'd really rather not do just yet. So, let's go over here. I should have gone before I said I'd have to backtrack. Down here, there's some treasure. And a locked chest.
Observe.
And some hidden loot. And this box,
Trapped.
which is trapped. Now, the way traps work are, you inspect the trap using a
Ready
character
and
who has the
wheeling.
skill. They inspect it. It will highlight boxes, depending on what it thinks it will do. And, of course, it's possible that they trip the trap. So, unfortunately, she got hit. But the good news is she wasn't poisoned. We did get a long sword and a short bow, so now at this point I think everybody who wants a ranged weapon has a ranged weapon. I'd really rather them use bows than crossbows. Crossbows are slow. And they're not going to do all that much damage with their weapon anyway, so the fact that crossbows do a little more damage is, well, mostly irrelevant. Let's find out. Nope. Do you believe they can't identify arrows yet? And I think we found 2 longswords, didn't we? I think we're going to give one of them to you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Now, he does give up some advantages. The katana is actually positive to hit and plus initiative, and the longsword is not. But it does. The longsword does more damage. This is 2 to 7, and I think the longsword's like 3 to 10 or 4 to 10. So at this point, we're more concerned as he moves into a higher, as his skill gets higher. Now that he's level 4, he can now afford to give up some of that to hit crutch and start working on how much damage he outputs. The Hobbit Samurai, that's right. So now we've gone over there, we've explored that entire side. There's nothing over there of interest to us. We hit the button, the trap goes up. We are not stuck up there. Yay for us. We can stay down here, and the reason we want to be able to stay down here is because if this fight goes south, I want to be able to
The
reload.
enemy will die slowly.
So we'll have to deal with these guys who are approaching us here, because they're not
Taken care of.
nice. We'll run up at them and cut them into ribbons. As you can tell by the camouflaged creature vanishes warning, some enemies will appear and disappear as they move into and out of your visual range. They'll disappear from radar.
Right then.
So a bit about power levels. I guess I should cover that briefly here. Power levels for your spells, you can cast this at a variable level. So casting it at level 1 only takes 2 mana, and it's 4, 6, 8, 10, 6, 7. This is auto cast. Basically, it'll recast the same thing as long as it needs to. The power level will have some effect based on what the spell does. So, for example, in this case, it's 1 round for power level. So irritating these guys will give us a to-hit bonus briefly, but that's it. Those guys down there that are getting it, by the time it affects them, it's only going to affect like 1 shot of theirs and none of ours. We'll never get to attack them before it wears off. The Poet's Loot here will allow us to
With pleasure.
cast a sleep spell, and it will tell you what level, power level the sleep spell was cast at. That level will go up some as the bar improves. And you'll notice he's now leading with the Wakizashi and following the other sword, and the reason is because his initiative with the other sword is much slower than it was. So his attacks are actually split up now. But I'm worried about doing the damage.
It shall be so.
See, I think we can worm our way into that little corner right there and get up on top of that guy. Maybe. Nope, that's as tight as we can get right there. We can get over here. Maybe. There we go. So now our samurai can hit both those guys, and our spear fighter can probably hit the one clear over there.
Block.
Well, if it wasn't blocked.
Oh, yeah.
So melee on sleeping target, double damage, 21. So even if it only puts him to sleep for one round, that amount of damage you output as a spike is seriously nice when it works in your favor. Doesn't apply to missile weapons. Oh no, he's running away! What will we do? We'll kill this guy right here.
Yeah.
Taken care of.
Right then.
With pleasure.
Splendid.
And
Now
there's your
that
ranger
was
doing a
fun.
critical hit. Finally. See, we could cast the Identify spell, but we don't want to. We're going to save our points again. So keep in mind, he's only got the spells that we learned from books. So Light and Stamina we picked up earlier, and these three we either started with, or Heal Wounds I picked up quickly because he's the only guy who has it right now to be able to cast it. And as before, we'll level up Alchemy, and we'll level up Psionics, and we'll level up Earth, so that spell that we keep using will stick better.
Ah,
Fizzle
my
less.
talents have been rewarded.
And now we're going to go and try something. We're going to save the game. Oh wait, there's an item over there. Where's that item? That item is down here. Yes, it is. Let's take that item. Now let's come up here. We'll move up to this narrow niche here, so if we get attacked, we can hopefully push to one side or the other and bottleneck them a little bit. Need to recover my spell points before we go upstairs.
Okay. Is a beast here? Our enemies are strong. Let me handle it.
Gregor's level 5. And I want to say he's got 3 attacks and punches above his weight. So, let's see. Gregor took out half of our samurai's hit points.
Right then.
With pleasure.
Anasrang Bhagavad Gita.
I believe it's intended to be technically, he's a roach. He only has the roaches have 4 legs. He's not spitting webbing, he's spitting goo. I believe it's a reference to the metamorphosis, but don't quote me. Now, as you can see, our Earth skill has gone up, power level 2 has started to become green. This means we can cast it reliably, this means we'll tend to fizzle it occasionally, this means we'll fizzle it a lot more, and this you might as well forget it, you're going to fizzle your brains out.
With pleasure.
Iona comes up short. Gabe is about to go down.
Right then.
With pleasure.
Taken care of.
That won't actually take effect until the end of the round, so Gabe may not make it. He's a little low on vitality.
Time for bed.
Gregor's not having it.
Anasrang Bhagavad-gita.
God, are you kidding me?
Don't
Awesome.
just stand there.
Awesome. I believe we have some resurrection dust in our bag.
Right then.
Make sure I'm looking at the right dust here. Yeah, it's got to be that one. Because we picked it up on the waterfall, and I know what that is. See if we can survive this.
Hey, thanks a lot. Next time, help me before I die. Got it? Taken care of.
Right then.
Also gets 3 attacks per round or some ridiculous number.
Do I gotta fall on my face to get some rest?
Anasrang Bhagavad-gita. Right then. We win, naturally.
Don't try that at home, kids. Alright, so let's see. We've got some stuff to distribute here. Gabe now has some actual armor on his head. Okay, so having dealt with Gregor, the first thing we're going to do is save the damn game. Alright, so let's see where are we here. This one. Oh, and for one, let's grab those. It's not that one. This is the one we want. Yeah. So, classic case of what I was saying earlier. Game does not tell you what's going on here. Vaguely ominous, quote here. But the catch is what's going on is that if you're standing in the middle there and you activate the statue, it will actually drop the floor out from under you and it will fall and you will hurt yourself. If you touch the skull, however, it opens up a door here somewhere. There it is. With a key. Remember the skull and bones down below in the tunnels? That's where you fall down and land. And then immediately you are set upon by the stuff that's at the bottom. Not a good beginning to your day.
Be careful. Don't do anything stupid that will get me killed.
Now, I can chance this because my bishop can uncurse any item, basically, as his ability. Remove all curses here. Uncurse. So if I do get a cursed item, I can take it off, but I'm reasonably certain that that one's not cursed. They just don't know what it is yet. So we can put it on, and it gives him some armor class, which he needs desperately. Because he's soft and squishy in the middle. You laugh, man. Gregor has ended the lives of many an Iron Man player because you don't know that Gregor is there and he is way nastier than you think he is. You can do Gregor earlier, I'm sure, if you employed all your powders, for example. If I pulled Steve's powder out instead of trying to cast the spell manually, so I had 2 people on debuff duty. I have some cure potion, moderate stamina potions that I forgot to split up and give some of them to my bard. So the first thing that she started to do was run out of stamina. She could have kept casting sleep. When if Gabe had been something other than paralyzed, I could theoretically have cured him of that. Some of my inventory hasn't been distributed. This is the kind of stuff that will sink us later, where we'll run into a problem. I won't say the game is hardcore, but it's definitely
Thanks so much.
of its era. There. Let's break the game. Okay, so light heal, moderate heal. We want to pick this up and merge it with that.
First class.
And that produces 2 potions we don't know. So we immediately throw the save key in this and split those items. Now there are 2 of them that we don't know. We check this one and see if we know it, which we don't. So we'll go ahead and bag it for later. And then we'll do that again. That's a heavy heal. These things go for 500 a pop. The moderates go for about 280, and the lights go for about 100. So I'm going to spend about $400 or so a pop, and I'm going to get out 500 and change, almost 600 per potion on a respawning item. The economy has just been broken, and it only gets progressively worse as potions we can make become progressively more valuable and the ingredients don't keep up. We will use that to make sure that we are adequately well supplied before we move on. Short the bank.
This'll be like target practice!
Oh no!
Right then.
And the guy who could get rid of it in one hit just passed out. So now we fight. Our monk is cowering in fear. 2 of our guys are unconscious. The mechanics are a little brain-bending, and if you're not sure you want to try to keep up with them, the general gist of it is this. If it's going to get hit, it wants vitality. If it's going to hit in melee or at range, it wants strength and dexterity. And if it's at range, it's going to want senses. If it uses magic, it's going to want intelligence, and then it uses a primary attribute of some sort for its class, whatever it is. And they all work that way. And then once you do that, it's basically just focusing them on whatever weapon and whatever spells you're going to use. Don't roll a hybrid group. Run a group of specialists. Fighter up front with maybe a Valkyrie beside him. Back it up with a bard and a ranger, and then back that up with a priest and a mage, and you'll be fine. And you'll advance a lot faster, and you won't have to worry about some of the weird grinding I'm going to have to do to make things work. And that's really all there is to it. If you're running a party of specialists, you'll do fine. And now the guy that was unconscious is paralyzed, and poof. Unfortunately, that was one of the few uses I would have had for the Dispel Undead ability.
Darling, I just keep getting better and better.
My inner balance
So
has
our guys
returned.
have
Right.
started to go up levels again. Here's our bard. And already she's started to get music skill up. We'll put some points in communication because she's the only one that's going to have it at that level.
My ailment has abated.
Good for you. Good for you. So, now downstairs we had a trapped chest, and it's the first one we've seen, and I kind of passed it up. I opened it because I tripped it when we were inspecting. But eventually we're going to come across a trapped chest, and I'm going to leave the sucker alone because at some point I'm going to have to go back with Iona and click the chest. And these chests along this wall, these coffins, represent a similar opportunity. Because up here, we're going to get one, and I'll quick save the game in case one of these guys takes it really hard. We're going to get the snot poisoned out of us when we open it and close it. So it's a trap, basically, and it will do damage to
My
you whenever
wounds
you
are
touch it.
beginning to slow me down.
So you can cast it and then use cure spells to remove the conditions and heal spells to cure the damage and grind out your spells that way too. And I'm going to do a little bit of that here offline shortly. Give me just a sec, guys.
My inner balance has returned.
My ailment has abated.
Right. Much better.
Not to mention my hybrids have all these multiple attribute dependencies so that you have to know which attributes they're going to need based on how they're going to play before you even start. That's just, no. Stick with a basic party. You can find recommendations all over the web for a basic party you can use. Now, we've opened that chest. We've damaged ourselves. Our bishop now can heal us up to the limit of his divine mana, because the rest of his mana is allocated for other types. So he has all this mana, but it's all split up basically, and he can only use this for healing. Your
What
monk,
is your will?
your monk psionicist and your Valkyrie
course.
will both get healing spells. I believe the alchemist does as well. So healing will have 4 different people in the group who can heal wounds and cure conditions. That'll help keep us from getting locked down. It will kind of make up for some of the reduced damage that our classes deal because they're hybrids, or the reduced spell selection on our specialist casters, basically. Now, as far as I know, this room is safe to camp in. So the beautiful part is, if you were grinding up your divine on your priest, for example, hint, 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 you could come in here, poison your guys a couple of times, rest, heal up, cast all your cure spells that you can cast for the day, and then immediately camp, heal your mana back up to full, and if your hit points still aren't full, and you can cure some more, do that until you're back to full, and then repeat the process, and you can do that to gain skill basically out of nowhere from nothing. The early stages when you're trying to learn all the spells and you don't know which spells are necessarily better than others, that's a good start. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so remember earlier when I pointed out that hallway was a trap? Yeah, this is where it brings you out. So the problem is once it brings you out up here, you have to fight Gregor. There's nothing else. So the only thing out here is the merchant, we'll go to in a minute, a door you can't open, a button that doesn't work, and Gregor. So if you get stuck up here, because you went upstairs and then saved, for example, you then get stuck fighting Gregor over and over again until you win, or tear your hair out and go, shut the game off and go play something else. Out here, we'll find our first NPC. Yay!
Company.
With some box. And a locked, trapped chest.
Take mind of the trap.
Which I won't touch. We'll open that up later. But for now, I'm going to save it for skill grinding. So, save the game. Pick, leave it, save the game. Pick, inspect, leave it, save the game. Oh, look, it tripped it, reload. And I'd repeat that until I ground up enough skill level to make traps viable.
Hey, was that you? That ship crash? Wow.
Yes, it was.
I thought you were goners for sure.
Hell
you
no,
ask
but you
me,
could've helped
something
us.
real bad's going on. 'Cause your ship wasn't the first to fall out of the sky.
Really? Lots of people got blown up today?
Traveling salesman, at your service. Well, there is a rumor that you might be the third messenger. Martin's messenger? Is that what you're asking me? That information's worth a little something. Well, see, you probably haven't heard a whole lot about it yet, but this guy named Martin, pretty much everyone on this planet is looking for him. I don't know where he is, but I know the path to find him. You have to go through Trenton. I'm not the one to ask. All I know is that he's dead. The shaman probably knows more, though. Martin's like a legend around here. You just look for the biggest tree in the forest south of Arnica, and you're there. You'll love it. It's a great place. Great! That information's worth a little something.
So, communication skill reduces this a little bit, basically.
The monastery?
Depending on
It's
how much you
Higardi,
got, you can
the
whittle it down a
Brotherhood.
little bit. But you're
Their
still
temple,
going to
I
end up
guess.
forking over cash.
No one's in there
which
now.
really doesn't
They
matter
took off a
because we
while
just
ago.
broke the
They've got
economy.
another temple in Arnica, though. A guy named Braffit runs it. Say, you been to Arnica yet? Well, if you haven't got plans, that's a good place to go. There's all kinds of stuff happening there right now. It's just south of here.
Yeah, I believe he's a rat. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be fur. Alright, so now we've talked to him about everything. Is that everything? Well, no, actually, this guy's actually the first merchant you can trade with. He sells arrows and stones and quarrels, and if you weren't paying real close attention to the fact that that button's there, you didn't realize you walked past a merchant at all. You can pickpocket him, he's got stuff. We don't have pickpocket skills, so we can't. Theoretically, we could try to recruit him. I don't know if he's actually one of the recruitable NPCs, but I don't care because it's not what I'm going to use him for. We could fight him. I don't really want to because he's, useful as he is, and we can leave him alone. Magic is
You
where Lothar
bellowed.
gets to grind. Lothar has the charm spell. Not at a particularly good power level, but he's got it. Basically, he'll cast him till he's dry, rest him till he's full, cast him till he's dry, rest him till he's full. We'll do it with charm on Burrs, light on the party, and if we're really bored, we'll run around in circles to wear down stamina and cast stamina on our group as well to level those skills individually up. And then we'll go back and fill in Divine by healing wounds, and Earth will be leveled up through our alchemy casting of that debuff repeatedly. And Air at that point would be the only thing we don't have, and there are some buff later on we could get for that if we really wanted to. So at this point, we could theoretically max out, 3 of our realms and probably alchemy, and I don't know, but maybe wizardry, if we really wanted to focus on just those, it would take forever and a day. I'm not going to show it on stream. We could do it. That would still leave him kind of weak on the cure spells, so we still have to keep him focused on healing to get that skill built up. Likewise, your monk eventually gets charm
is your
through
will?
his psionics school, so you could do your monk the same way. Bring him up here, cast charm over and over again, rest him repeatedly, and he'll build up the psionic mental discipline, and so that school basically works all the time, and you have access to the higher level spells in that school. Since that'll include crowd control spells like terror and insanity and things that, turn your enemy on one another, he'll be useful in that sense. Our priestess up here will eventually start healing. He'll start doing crowd control and damage spells. Our ranger will be just like Lothar. He'll break the economy and produce potions for us. So, speaking of potions, let's talk about what that means for a second.
Come back and see me if you need anything.
Since I'm going to be doing some grinding here in a minute, and we're going to want to save.
It was a pleasure.
You bellowed?
Come back and see me if you need anything.
Till we meet again.
Okay, so now we've got furs all camped up here and ready to charm.
Are you mad?
Got some new stuff
Actually, I
in
have to be talking
stock.
to him, sorry. And it even lets you know when it works, so now he's charmed. So now our communication specialist here will switch back to her. You can only switch when you're on the magic.
Ready
so
and
we'll switch
willing.
to her. And she's got the best communication skills, so even if it matters, and I don't even think it does, she'll get the best prices. We'll buy us some arrows and some bullets. Leather boots are nice. We can come back to those. Let's see what else you got here. Quilted leggings are light armor with AC 4. They're basically a light leather. They're good for us to buy. I don't see, or I didn't notice any. There's light heal, there's mod heal. So mod heal right now is going for $291. We'll buy 2 of those and 2 light heals.
Not quite the...
And then we'll leave because we're going to go back.
Come back and see...
Wisdom.
Now, unfortunately, I don't know that we can actually identify these potions yet, which is kind of a shame. So let's go merge. And then we'll merge the light in. But he can.
First class. Thanks so much. First class.
We can put some points in his artifact skill. 13. He's not the highest yet. He needs to hit 15 before I think he can identify that. Okay, so. Wonder what Burr sells an identify scroll for. Or if he does, let's take a look. Doesn't look like he does. Alright, so we'll do this.
Come back and see.
Good riddance.
We'll go also. We'll come back with our skill levels up, so we can actually identify our own potions. And then we can crank them out and rule the world! Now he's all cheerful. What's funny is let's say you charm him and it doesn't work, he'll say, well, I'm not going to sell to you, and then it doesn't seem to have any effect. He's still neutral to you or happy to you. Let's see, there's some ambush down there. We can do that fight.
Enemies? Good. They
Now, these
will
are in
die
groups, so this is an important
quickly.
time to talk about groups. I can Poet's Loot only one group at a time, so I can only put
With
one
pleasure.
of those groups to sleep. And this guy has a cone spell. Cones will affect, regardless of group, in the area around
Right
which
then.
they're targeted. So this is kind of a spread out from the center at the bottom of the screen, out this direction. And I want to make sure that
Right
I
then.
recenter us a little bit. So we're going to walk, but we're not going to walk far. We're just going to basically take a short step. And solely to get our facing the way we want it so that they can't surround us. I think they're actually going to go out the other door. Bastards. They don't have many. The objective is to get behind us where they can double up on damage when they hit the softer party members. But I think that they'll have to take an additional turn to go around so they can get quite close enough to us. Notice that only one roach was left from that group, and he was the only one affected. This guy was inside the cone, so he didn't get hit. So this guy got double whammy, and the other guy got nothing. Seeing all these guys are in the front quad, so
Extraordinary.
So now, you know, at some point I've got to basically save and combat grind a little bit. That's where the mythology skill will really start to take off, because I'll spend all this time identifying all these hapless critters we slaughtered. So see, the bard and the bishop are both basically keeping pace with one another, identifying items. already they're at 15. That's with not spending any points into it. So these are hard leather gauntlets. Medium armor means the monk can't wear them. The ranger can, but he's not the ones I'm worried about. These guys up front are still wearing soft nothing, basically, because we haven't farmed burrs for some armor yet. So they're basically wearing nothing like what they need to be. They'll be 2 or 3 points higher in armor class once we grind them a bit. Now this safe was, remember we opened the statue. There's a key here that opens that. Resurrection powder, yay! Saving the lives of samurai everywhere. The cleaver is actually part of a compound weapon that you can merge things into one another by turning them into a guy. You'll take those items and make them into a special magical item. Before I do that, I should check to see if you can actually identify these yet. Still no. I are sad.
Got some new stuff in stock.
Ready and willing.
There are no good axes in the game. There are no good axes in the game, etc., etc., etc. All of these items in the party inventory weigh out on your party, so it's important to keep your inventory trimmed. We have no crossbow users. Quarrels are useless to us. Everybody has better than cloth pants. Everybody has better than sandals. All that stuff's gotta go. All this unidentified stuff, we need to figure out what it is. We don't want to sell it unidentified because we'll lose a lot of money. I want to keep the quarterstaff in case I have to put somebody in melee that I wouldn't otherwise. And I want to keep the katana because it's the only one I have that's a special samurai sword in case something comes along later that lets me change them. I doubt it, but it's possible. And carrying one weapon isn't a big deal. This is unidentified. It could be magical. It could be valuable. Likewise, I'm sure Gabe's inventory sword here that we've been using probably still isn't identified. I'd rather hang on to those until we know what they are. Already just selling junk. We're back up to 900. Go ahead and buy some stuff if we can find some good stuff here. Leather boots, we'll buy those.
Come back and see me if...
And basically I do hand-me-downs through all my characters until I find the set that can equip it. This is a female-only item, so it's going straight to her, which is okay, because everybody else has at least as good as she did. So she can throw her stuff in the bag, and that works. Alright, so skill grind time. Save game. Camp everybody full.
It appears booby-trapped.
Ready and willing.
Over and over and over. But this illustrates what I was talking about. When you inspect the trap, it will tell you that this trap has these two components, and depending on which trap you select, it will show you which components they are using. So dagger scatter is these two, and your rogue isn't sure about this. It could be involved. I could be wrong about one of these, is what she's saying. But if you inspect the trap repeatedly, you're going to find that this one ends up disappearing and these two don't, because she keeps identifying the right stuff over and over again. Her skill's pretty low still. Now, if we trip the trap, unfortunately that would open the chest, and we don't want to do that, so now we have to reload. Ta-da, we're right back here again.
Got trap on it.
Ready and willing.
So, inspect, 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 save, inspect, 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 save. There's a whole host of ways you can basically trick these. Now, how far you want to take that is up to you. For most of my characters, I'm not going to take it to an extreme. I'm going to raise them up a few levels so that I can make sure I get access to things that I might not otherwise if I wasn't careful. And allow me to take off some of the importance of leveling up particular items in their skills. But how far you want to take that is up to you, because really there's no limit. You can basically inspect this chest until this character hits 100 if you really want to. It'll take a long time, but you can do it. Pretty much every skill has some way to influence it that direction. For example, remember early in the game we bypassed a closet that had 3 roaches and a potion sitting in it. Those roaches are level 1 and they're going to be level 1 forever, so at some point I can come back with my guys, switch them all to some stealth class like Rogue, park them in front of the door in high-level leather armor, and hit point regeneration items, and walk away from the keyboard overnight while they level up. And basically put them on permanent defense. You know, strip all their weapons off and put them on permanent defense and never take them off. All through the game. If you don't do those sorts of tricks, then, or you don't want to, my strong suggestion is just go ahead and play primarily specialist characters, so you can afford to carry some of the lower skill levels of the hybrids.
Hey!
Ah, wrong button. Don't!
Got trap on it.
Ready and willing.
Now what will happen is, sooner or later, she'll gain a skill point, basically, and this will go up, and we can camp and save. As the skill goes up, inspecting becomes safer. See, she inspected it this time. She's sure that this is the two things, and she doesn't think that anything else is involved. A really bad roll that doesn't quite trip the trap would give us, like, 5 different things it could be part of. See, she's not even sure this one is now because she rolled poorly. And we'll bounce out and save at this point. It's still armed. Get back in there and inspect it.
Hey! Oh, that hurts.
And as you see, her percentage just went up by 1%. So now we can quit and save. Run her up to 20 or 30, and at that point she kind of stays ahead of the traps. You'll notice that the gear that's coming out is not necessarily the same. I don't think it's been the same every time. I have to double check. I don't think it is set. The items in the chest are set, but I think some of them are not necessarily awarded to you when you open it. There's a level sensor that comes back along and says, well, if you're less than level 6, items over this amount of value aren't allowed to be awarded to you out of this chest, so it strips them from the loot, basically. And the level of the chest, with respect to that, is set when you first enter a map. So when we moved to the upper monastery, which we haven't entered yet, we're still in the lower monastery. When we move to the upper monastery, all the chests in that area are going to get set. And since we're not yet level 6, any item that's more than, I think it's 500 gold in value, gets stripped out of whatever chest it's in. Now, the flip side of that is that because we're not level 6, the mobs that would spawn when we're level 6 don't spawn yet either. The stuff we fight isn't fixed. And it appears, as near as I can tell, to vary as well with night and day, even inside the monastery. So just like the games of yore, and now we got 19. La-di-da-di-da.
Hey!
You bellowed?
Oh, I've got it. And bad.
Now for bonus points, she's poisoned, so we can wait a second and then heal her again. Wait a second and heal her again. And eventually it'll wear off, and it's not going to do a whole lot of damage. But we can effectively get more points out of healing her with that. We have cure potions if we need them.
Ready and willing. Oh!
Notice that the trap is not the same. Notice it's been giving us these two. It means that the trap itself has actually changed. It's not dagger scatter this time, it's poison darts.
Oh!
See, because that uses this uses those, this uses this and this. Rune of Madness uses these two down here.
Hey!
She's such a baby about it.
Hey! Oh, much better.
You bellowed?
Ready and willing.
You right there?
Ready and willing.
So he gets a little credit towards divine skill. Now see it triple. Nope, see it's fixed. Halberg and stones again. So when we first entered the lower monastery was actually when we started the game, because this is all in the lower monastery. So this chest's contents were set up at that point. If, for example, it contained a level of chain armor, which is theoretically possible for these chests, it would disappear from them before we ever saw it, because the chain armor is simply worth too much. See, and you could theoretically inspect it like this. You get credit for disarming one part of it, and then credit for inspecting. I don't think that it stays if you click out. I think it actually will reset it. Let's see. And now you have to inspect it again. It's probably the same trap, but we'll see. And we'll disarm it and move on. I don't want to show you guys all of this in stream. The leather halberd is better armed. What most of my characters are
Of
wearing.
course.
So now she's up to respectable light tank armor. The samurai is lagging behind the monk, because the monk still has the ring, but the monk's going to need the ring in a minute because the samurai's going to get better armor. Oh, it's important to note that conditions don't necessarily end when you camp, so a poisoned character, if you camp, could very well die from the poison while they're in camp.
Got some new stuff in stock.
You bellowed?
Ready and willing.
You bellowed?
Come back and see me if you need anything.
See, and so his skill
It was a
improved up the chart.
pleasure.
Now we'll camp for 24 hours and reset Merz's inventory. Stuff we've bought will be replaced. Now, what you want to watch out for here is that, say, for example, he's got arrows and bolts and sling stones. They fill up his inventory and effectively keep him from resetting. So we'll need to buy some of them and stick them somewhere and effectively pull them out of his inventory to force him to keep recycling what his items are. The good news is, items you drop in the world or throw in that convenient chest right there are permanent. So if we buy a bunch of arrows from him and stick them in that chest, we can come back for them later and they'll still be there.
Got some new stuff in stock. Come back and see me if you need
Gotta go
anything.
one more day, one more 8-hour period. And as I'm not sure whether that includes talking to him, we're going to do it twice more.
Till
Call it OCD. Call it not wanting to ruin it again. Well, come on, man. Keep in consideration of the times here. This is the tail end of an era that basically started with the gold box set. You look back in Baldur's Gate, for example, all of those are starting to move towards the isometric, and then it's not until Dragon Age, which is still kind of the third-person out-of-perspective viewpoint. Games like this, I think Legend of Grimrock is the only one I know of that's been done recently. And I don't think it has the turn-based combat. I think it's real-time all the time, which I kind of wanted something more like this where you can take your time with it a little better.
Got some new stuff in stock.
So now Charm is green for level 1, so now he can cast it without fizzling it.
Ready and willing.
Alright, so that leggings and tunic can be put on the next guy who needs armor. The monk can't actually wear these, we have to buy him the suede kind. Oh, got the suede kind, so right there he's taken care of. We can throw those in there. And then the tunic can go on the first guy. Don't think we've ever managed to identify our heavy heels, have we? So if you sell them unidentified, they're like 104 instead of 500 and change. So
Come back and see me if you
really
need
get burned.
anything.
See you around.
So, in theory, what you're really doing at this point is you're kind of spending a little time wandering around the lower monastery because you don't know where everything is, searching every nook and cranny for hidden treasure, fighting random encounters just like you would have done in the games of yesteryear. The only difference is now the random encounters spawn as three-dimensional things you can, kind of see and avoid. We've moved away from the, a slime appears suddenly kind of gameplay towards something that resembles the more modern first-person shooters, but you're still playing this very in-perspective party game. So, my party effectively is, I think the term is Shiva stacked, so that you're 6 arms sticking out of one body. I don't want to go up to the upper monastery just yet. What level are we? She's 5, but everybody else is 4 still, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. I want to raise the level just a little more before I go up to the upper monastery. So let's find us a good spot, like over down here. Jam our butt in that corner. What I'm trying to do is actually generate some random encounters that we can run into and get just a little bit more experience out of. I really don't want to move on just yet. Unfortunately, this is not particularly exciting. The spawn rate in this area is not particularly high because it's intended for newbies. Once I walk out the door of the monastery, I'm going to set the level of the area beyond that. I don't want to do that yet either.
I
There we
spot new victim.
Stand back and watch me fight. You
Now,
might
they kind of
learn
have
something.
to appear in front of us, so, all of them are overstacked up here. Even if they surround us, they're still only going to be in these flank sides. They won't be behind us where they can actually get to the bishop. So, we're still doing the spread of tankier classes in front.
Blocked.
And since they surprised us, The monk is asleep, and they've nauseated 2 people, which reduces their effectiveness.
Right then.
Basically, they'll tell you they occasionally skip a turn. See, I wanted to do something really retro. And I actually went back and thought, oh, well, hey, I'll play through 6 and 7 and port my character all the way through the series, you know. And I got to looking at 6, and I went, nah. I looked at 7 and went, they're getting there, but not yet. And then I looked at this one and I thought, well, maybe. So I started in with this one, and this is actually done pretty well. It has the definite flavor of the original Wizardry I played years ago.
Right then.
In terms of how your skills and stuff work. The game still depends on you finding some sorts of exploits if you really want to, you know, have a super powerful character, for example. And some of the things that you would like to work don't work as well as you'd think. Like the bishop, for example, in earlier games would be better than this. You don't spend time practicing on him. This is rough, man, but you gotta realize this is 15 years ago now.
An extraordinary exploit.
800 by 600, baby, in all of its glory.
Okay.
Oh, much better.
I mean, 2001, that puts it alongside, what, Half-Life, maybe?
Right then.
With pleasure.
Grind, 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 our skill deficit today.
Understood.
That's better.
My inner balance has returned.
And lightning strike, 4 attacks. Of course, you can't hit the squat because his strength isn't very high yet, but... And then the archer kills it in 1 hit. Nice.
Understood.
It shall be so.
My ailment has abated.
We did it!
Alright, let's drop back to the tunnels. We've rested a little bit. The tunnels should have some stuff in them now. So we can take the ramp down straight into the King Crab's room, which is actually a good spot to rest. We can force ourselves to be ambushed repeatedly in there if we want. So we may do that now. I've camped in here repeatedly and I get ambushed all the time in here.
We shall utterly obliterate them.
Taken care of.
Level 5, so it's appropriate for our level here. The cute.
With pleasure.
Yep. Control F12.
Disgusting.
Our ranger is going to sleep through the fight.
Taken care of.
I'm better now.
My inner balance has returned.